It was July 7th, 1968, a night where the humidity in Harlem stuck to the skin like a wet sheet, heavy and suffocating. The clock on the wall of Wells's famous home of chicken and waffles read 2:14 a.m. The restaurant, usually a sanctuary of laughter and clinking silverware, was eerily quiet, save for the low hum of the refrigerator and the sizzling of grease in the back. At a corner booth, Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson sat slumped against the red leather, his face the color of old parchment. His chest felt like an anvil was resting on it, a crushing, rhythmic pain that radiated down his left arm, signaling that the engine of the Harlem machine was finally breaking down. Across from him sat Dominic the Snake Calvillo, a 26-year-old capo from the Genovese family. Dominic was everything Bumpy despised about the new world. He had no code, no history, and no soul. He wore a suit that was too tight and a smile that was too wide. Between them, on the Formica table, lay an open briefcase. Inside, stacked in neat, rubber-banded rows, was $500,000. A king's ransom. "Take it, old man," Dominic sneered, picking at a fingernail. "You look like you're about to check out anyway. Your ticker is exploding. The commission is being generous. Take the $500,000, go down to the Bahamas, sit on a beach, and die in the sun. Let us handle the neighborhood. We're going to pump so much white powder into these streets, it'll look like Christmas in July." Bumpy stared at the money. His breath was coming in short, shallow rasps. The pain in his chest was blinding, a white-hot spear twisting in his heart. But his eyes, glazed with the fog of approaching death, suddenly sharpened. He looked from the money to his half-finished cup of black coffee. He didn't speak. Not yet. With a hand that trembled violently from the strain of his failing heart, Bumpy lifted the ceramic mug. Steam curled off the black surface. Dominic watched, confused, expecting the old man to take a sip to wash down a nitroglycerin pill. Instead, Bumpy tilted his wrist. A stream of scalding, pitch-black liquid poured directly into the open briefcase. It splashed over the crisp faces of Benjamin Franklin, soaking the stacks, turning the green paper into a sodden brown mush. The smell of roasted beans mixed with the smell of wet currency. Dominic jumped back, his eyes bulging. "Are you crazy? That's $500,000, you senile old bat." Bumpy set the empty mug down with a heavy thud. He leaned forward, fighting the agony in his chest to deliver his final sermon. "Your money is dirty, Dominic," Bumpy wheezed, his voice sounding like dry leaves skittering on pavement. "But my coffee is blacker. You think you can buy Harlem? You think you can put this neighborhood to sleep with your heroin?" He pointed a shaking finger at the ruined cash. "In Harlem, we drink our coffee black and bitter so we can stay awake. We stay awake to watch for devils like you. We don't take your medicine to sleep through the nightmare." "You stupid!" Dominic lunged for the briefcase, trying to salvage the wet bills. At that moment, the anvil in Bumpy's chest dropped. His heart gave a final, thunderous kick, and then stopped. Bumpy gasped, his head falling forward, his body collapsing onto the table. Dominic laughed, a cruel, barking sound. "Look at that! Divine intervention! The old dinosaur is dead. I didn't even have to pull the trigger." He reached out, grabbing the handle of the sodden briefcase, preparing to drag his money back and leave the corpse for the busboys. Snap. As Dominic's hand brushed the briefcase, Bumpy's right hand shot out. It wasn't the movement of a living man. It was the reflex of a titan refusing to leave his post. Bumpy's fingers clamped around Dominic's wrist. It was a grip of iron, cold and unyielding, the last surge of adrenaline from a lifetime of fighting. Dominic yelped, trying to pull away. Let go, you corpse!" He couldn't break the grip. Bumpy Johnson, in the throes of death, was stronger than Dominic was in the prime of his life. Bumpy used the leverage to pull Dominic down, dragging the young mobster's face inches from his own. Bumpy's eyes were dimming, the light fading rapidly, but he focused his remaining will on the terrified eyes of the Italian. "I'm dying, boy," Bumpy whispered, the words bubbling up with the last of his breath. "But listen to me. I am not leaving. I am becoming the ghost of this place." Dominic struggled, sweat pouring down his face, terrified by the supernatural strength of the dying man. "Every bag of dope you sell," Bumpy rasped, his voice sounding like it was coming from the grave already. "I will be there. I will haunt your sleep. I will be in the shadows of the alleyways. You will never rule this place, because to be a king, you need a heart, and you have nothing." The grip tightened one last time, bruising Dominic's skin, and then Bumpy Johnson exhaled, a long, shuddering breath that carried the soul of an era out of the room. His hand went limp, sliding off Dominic's wrist. His head rested on the table, peaceful, as if he were just taking a nap after a long shift. Dominic stumbled back, clutching his bruised wrist, his heart hammering against his ribs. He looked at the dead legend, then at the ruined money. He grabbed the wet briefcase, his bravado shattered, replaced by a primal need to flee. "He's crazy," Dominic muttered to himself, panting. "He's just a dead man. Just a dead man." He turned to run out the front door, and he stopped dead. The restaurant was no longer empty. The cook, a massive man with forearms like tree trunks, had come out of the kitchen, holding a cleaver loosely at his side. The waitress, a woman in her 60s who had served Bumpy his breakfast for 20 years, stood by the register. The three other customers, a jazz musician, a sanitation worker, and a night shift nurse, had risen from their booths. They didn't say a word. They didn't raise a weapon. They simply stood shoulder to shoulder, blocking the exit. They formed a human wall of silence. Dominic reached for the gun in his shoulder holster, his eyes darting around. "Move! Get out of my way! I'm walking out of here!" Nobody moved. They didn't flinch at the gun. They looked at him, not with fear, but with an absolute, crushing contempt. They looked at him like he was a cockroach skittering across a clean floor. They looked at the wet money dripping from his briefcase, and then they looked at the body of the man slumped in the booth. Slowly, as one, the wall of people turned their backs on Dominic. They faced the booth. The cook bowed his head. The waitress crossed herself. The musician took off his hat and held it over his heart. It was a silent coronation for the fallen king and a total excommunication for the intruder. Dominic stood there, gun half drawn, realizing the terrifying truth. He could shoot them. He could kill them all. But he couldn't make them move. He couldn't make them respect him. He was invisible. With a whimper of humiliation, Dominic shoved his gun back into his holster. He couldn't walk through the center. He had to scurry along the wall, squeezing past the coat rack, ducking under the gaze of the mourners. He slipped out the door like a thief in the night, clutching his coffee-stained money, running from a room that was silent as a tomb. Outside, the Harlem night was hot and heavy. Dominic ran to his car, looking over his shoulder, checking the shadows. Bumpy's words echoed in his ears. "I am becoming the ghost of this place." Dominic started the engine and peeled away, leaving tire marks on the asphalt. He had the money, and he had the drugs. But as he looked in his rearview mirror at the lights of Wells' restaurant, he knew the war was already lost. The king had died on his throne, surrounded by his subjects, while the pretender fled into the dark, forever haunted by the grip of a dead man's hand.